In this video, we'll build on the last episode and add weapon switching. So, someone in my server mentioned how it wasn't a good idea to shoot forward from the muzzle, and they're sorta right. It's not a good idea because it could have unwanted effects. That is, bullets not landing in the center of the screen, and your gun being able to shoot through walls. So a simple fix is to shoot forward from the camera rather than the gun model. Open up the gun script and rename muzzle to cam. Make sure it says cam instead of muzzle when the ray is cast, and in the inspector assign the camera holder to this field. Playing the game, you can see that everything is working just as before. Now, let's go over how you can add more weapons. First, create an empty game object under the weapon holder. I'll call it pistol because it'll be a pistol. Now add a model of your choice as a child of this object. Then set the pivot by only moving the model, just like we did in the last video. You can disable the other gun to see what it would look like in the game, and position it accordingly. Now add the gun script to the pistol. Create a new gun scriptable object for the pistol. I'll call it M1911. Set the damage to 16, the max distance to 100, the current ammo and mag size to 18, fire rate to 200, and the reload time to 1 second. Now assign the scriptable object and the camera holder to the gun script. If we disable the other weapon and play the game, you can see it's working properly. Now let's actually work on the weapon switching. Create a new script called weapon switching and open it up. In this script, we first need an array of transforms that will be our weapons, an array of key codes that will be the keys that we press in order to switch weapons, a float for the time it takes before we can switch weapons, an integer for our currently selected weapon, and finally a float for the time that has passed since the last switch. Now in the start method, we'll call a method called setWeapons and another method called select, passing in the selected weapon as an argument. At the end, set time since last switch to 0. Now create the missing methods. In the setWeapons method, first initialize the weapons array to a new array of transforms with a length of the transform's child count. This script will be attached to the weapon holder, so its transform's child count will be the number of weapons we have. Then create a for loop in which you initialize I to 0, loop as long as I is less than this transform's child count, and increment I after every iteration. In the loop, simply assign weapons at index I to transform getChild, passing in I as the index. Finally, check if the keys array is null, and if it is, set it to a new array of key codes with the same length as the weapons array. In the select method, I'll first rename the parameter to weapon index. Then using a loop, set the weapons game object to active if I is the weapon index and inactive otherwise. Now set time since last switch to 0, and optionally you can call a method that fires when we select a new weapon. For now, I'll just print a message to the console. In the update method, first create a local variable that will hold the index of our last selected weapon. Then loop through all the keys, and using an if statement, check if the current iteration's key is being pressed and the time since last switch is greater than or equal to the switch time. If these conditions are met, set selected weapon to I. Now if the previously selected weapon and the selected weapon are different, select the newly selected weapon. Finally, increment time since last switch by the delta time. Back in the inspector, add the weapon switching script to the weapon holder. You can see we have a few fields we can set. We don't want to set the weapons, just the keys. So add as many keys as there are weapons. In my case, I'll be adding 2 keys. I'll set them to alpha 1 and alpha 2, which are just the 1 and 2 keys at the top of your keyboard. And also set switch time. I'll set it to half a second. If you play the game, you can see the weapons are switching as I press the keys. Now we're not done just yet. We need to ensure that the weapon switching doesn't interfere with reloading, so we'll simply cancel the reload if the player switches the weapon. In the gun script, in the start reload method where we check if we aren't already reloading before actually reloading, add another condition. That condition being that this game object is active. Now if the weapon is inactive, it won't try to reload. One more thing we have to do is set gun data reloading to false when we switch weapons. So in the onDisable method, simply set gun data reloading to false. OnDisable is called when the mono behavior becomes disabled. And we're done. You can see when I play the game, the assault rifle is selected and I can shoot it. If I reload and switch weapons quickly, it cancels the reload. And if I try switching the weapon really fast, it only switches after the switch time has passed. Thanks for watching the video. If you found it helpful, make sure to subscribe to see more content like this.